You know that feeling when the air shifts in your living room at 3 a.m. and suddenly you're holding your breath, waiting for something that shouldn't be possible. The soft padding of paws across the kitchen floor, the familiar jingle of a collar that you buried months ago. Your rational mind builds walls against what your heart already knows. They're still here. But what if those walls are the real illusion? What if the boundary between life and death is nothing more than a frequency you've been taught not to hear? Edgar Cayce, the man who could slip into unconscious states and speak truths that shattered scientific understanding, once received a reading that would change everything you think you know about death, consciousness, and the creatures who love you unconditionally. A grieving woman sat across from his sleeping form, desperate for answers about her beloved companion who had crossed over. What emerged from Cayce's lips in that trance state wasn't comfort. It was revelation. You see, you've been conditioned to believe that death is an ending, that consciousness requires a beating heart, that love, no matter how profound, cannot bridge the gap between dimensions. But your pet never accepted these limitations. They never learned that love has borders. When you feel their presence in the empty spaces they once filled, when you catch a shadow moving just beyond your peripheral vision, when you wake to the sensation of weight settling at the foot of your bed, you're not imagining things. You're experiencing what Cayce revealed as the most natural thing in the universe. Love that refuses to be contained by physical law. Your pet's return isn't supernatural. It's evidence that the supernatural is simply natural forces you haven't learned to perceive yet. Every unexplained moment of connection, every impossible visitation, every time you swear you heard their voice calling to you from somewhere beyond. These aren't grief-induced hallucinations. They're communications from a consciousness that discovered something human minds struggle to accept. Death is not an ending. It's a frequency change. The love you shared created bonds that operate outside of time, beyond space, independent of whether a heart still beats. Your pet learned this truth the moment they transitioned. Now they're trying to teach it to you, one impossible visitation at a time, until you finally understand that some connections are permanent features of reality itself. You need to understand what happened in that room when Edgar Cayce's conscious mind stepped aside and something far more profound took control of his voice. Reading 57552 wasn't just another psychic consultation. It was the moment human understanding cracked open to reveal truths that would make modern science uncomfortable for decades to come. The woman sitting across from Cayce's unconscious form had lost more than a pet. She had lost her faith in continuity, in the persistence of love, in the possibility that consciousness could survive the cessation of breath. Her question trembled with the weight of every pet owner's deepest fear. When they die, do they simply disappear? What emerged from Cayce's trance state shattered that fear completely. Animals, he revealed, possess souls of a different vibrational frequency than humans, not lesser, not simpler, but operating on wavelengths that make them naturally more aligned with spiritual dimensions. While human consciousness gets tangled in complex webs of karma, lessons and spiritual contracts that can take lifetimes to resolve, animal souls move through existence with a purity of purpose that makes their post-death communications remarkably clear. You've experienced this clarity yourself, haven't you? The way your pet seemed to understand your emotional state before you did. The way they appeared exactly when you needed comfort most. The way they could read your energy with an accuracy that humans spend years trying to develop. This wasn't coincidence. It was evidence of consciousness operating on frequencies that death cannot disturb. Cayce's revelation means every impossible moment you've shared with your departed pet carries the authentication of one of history's most documented psychic sources. That sensation of familiar presence when you're alone in the house. The dreams where they appear more vivid and real than waking life. The moments when electronics malfunction in patterns that remind you of their behavior. These aren't wishful thinking or grief-induced hallucinations. They're proof that love creates permanent energetic signatures that persist across dimensional boundaries. Your pet's consciousness didn't vanish when their body stopped functioning. It simply shifted to a frequency range you haven't learned to perceive consistently, but they're learning to reach across that frequency gap, to manipulate physical reality in small ways that your heart can recognize even when your mind resists. The most profound aspect of Cayce's revelation wasn't just that animals survive death, it's that they survive death with their love intact, their connection to you unbroken, their desire to comfort and protect you stronger than any physical limitation. Your departed pet isn't gone. They've simply graduated to a level of existence where they can love you more completely than physical form ever allowed. There exists a moment, silent, electric, transformative, when your eyes meet those of an animal, and something ancient stirs within your chest. You call it coincidence, you call it chance. But Edgar Cayce understood this phenomenon as something far more profound. The recognition of souls who have danced together across lifetimes, finding each other again through invisible threads that death cannot cut. You walk into that shelter, that pet store, that yard where someone's giving away puppies, and one creature locks eyes with you. Not with others, with you. And in that gaze lies a recognition so deep, so immediate, so inexplicably familiar that your rational mind scrambles for explanations, while your heart simply knows, it's you again. This is the soul recognition protocol, the quantum entanglement of consciousness that binds certain souls together across multiple incarnations. Your pet doesn't just happen into your life. They choose you. They seek you out. They recognize the energetic signature of a love that began long before this particular meeting and will continue long after this particular goodbye. Consider the mathematical impossibility of random chance explaining the profound connections that govern your relationships with animals. Out of millions of creatures on this planet, why does your heart resonate with this specific consciousness? Why does this particular animal seem to understand your emotional rhythms without training, anticipate your needs without conditioning, respond to your energy with an intimacy that suggests prior knowledge? The answer lies in what Cayce identified as energetic memory, the soul's ability to recognize love patterns that transcend physical form. Your pet's consciousness carries imprints of shared experiences, emotional bonds, and mutual care that span multiple lifetimes. They return to you because the love between you created energetic commitments that neither time nor death can dissolve. You notice the signs everywhere once you understand the protocol. The way your new puppy gravitates to the same sleeping spot your previous dog claimed. The identical quirks that emerge without environmental influence, the uncanny timing of their appearance in your life, often arriving precisely when you need healing from the loss of their predecessor. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence of consciousness selecting its circumstances with surgical precision. But recognition goes deeper than behavioral echoes. Your pet remembers your energetic signature, the unique frequency of your love, the specific ways you express care, the particular emotional needs you carry. They return with upgraded wisdom, having learned from previous incarnations how to serve your healing more effectively. Each lifetime together deepens their understanding of how to be exactly what you need them to be. This explains why certain animals seem to possess knowledge they shouldn't have, why they instinctively know which of your emotions requires comfort and which requires space, why they position themselves as energetic shields during your vulnerable moments, why their presence feels less like companionship and more like completion. They're not learning your patterns, they're remembering them. The soul recognition protocol operates through quantum entanglement at the consciousness level. When love reaches sufficient depth and purity, it creates permanent energetic bonds between souls. These bonds don't dissolve with physical death. They strengthen. They become the navigation system that guides familiar consciousness back to familiar love, often through circumstances that appear miraculous but follow spiritual laws more precise than physics. Your pet's death isn't an ending, it's an intermission. Their consciousness retreats to evaluate the lessons learned, the love shared, the growth achieved. Then, when timing aligns with your need and their readiness, they initiate the return protocol. They influence circumstances, guide coincidences, and orchestrate meetings that bring you together again. But here's where most people miss the deeper truth. Your pet doesn't just return out of love for you. They return because the bond between you serves their soul's evolution as profoundly as it serves yours. You provide them with opportunities to experience unconditional love, to develop loyalty, to practice healing, to learn the art of emotional support. Your relationship is mutual spiritual education disguised as companionship. Recognition works both ways. Just as they remember you, part of you remembers them. This is why you feel inexplicably drawn to certain animals while remaining indifferent to others. Your soul recognizes its spiritual partner before your mind processes the connection. The love you feel isn't new. It's ancient love remembering itself. The protocol reveals itself in perfect timing. They appear when you're ready for their specific gifts. If you need healing from trauma, they return with enhanced empathic abilities. If you need motivation for life changes, they embody the energy required to inspire transformation. If you need companionship through isolation, they manifest with precisely the personality traits that complement your solitude. Your needs and their capabilities align with supernatural precision because they've had lifetimes to study what works between you. Some souls incarnate together repeatedly, playing different roles in each lifetime. The horse you loved as a teenager returns as the dog who guards your adulthood. The cat who comforted your childhood grief becomes the bird who celebrates your mature joy. The form changes, but the essence remains constant and recognizable to anyone with eyes trained to see beyond the physical. This is why losing pets feels different from other losses. You're not just mourning a companion, you're mourning the temporary separation from a soul who has chosen to interweave their existence with yours across multiple lifetimes. The grief carries extra weight because it carries the accumulated love of all your incarnations together, but understanding the soul recognition protocol transforms grief into anticipation. Instead of viewing death as permanent separation, you recognize it as temporary transition. Your pet hasn't left you. They've simply gone to prepare for the next phase of your eternal relationship. They're selecting their next form, their next entry point, their next way of serving your mutual evolution. The protocol demands that you honor the depth of these connections. Stop dismissing your bond with animals as just companionship. Recognize it as the profound spiritual partnership it actually is. Your pet chose you across lifetimes because your souls have work to do together. Healing to facilitate, love to demonstrate, growth to achieve. When you meet their eyes and feel that shock of recognition, honor what's actually happening. You're not just choosing a pet. You're reuniting with a soul partner who has traveled across lifetimes to find you again. The love between you isn't confined to this single incarnation. It's eternal, growing stronger with each reunion, deeper with each shared experience. The next time you look into your pet's eyes, remember, they chose you again, and they will choose you again and again, until the love between you has served its ultimate purpose in both your soul's evolution. This is the soul recognition protocol, not just the explanation for inexplicable bonds, but proof that love truly is the force that transcends death and orchestrates miracles we call coincidence. Your pet recognizes you because love never forgets itself. And neither, if you're honest, do you. You've felt it before, That inexplicable moment when you lock eyes with an animal and something deeper than recognition passes between you. Something that whispers, "I know you. I've always known you." This isn't sentiment, it's soul recognition, and it operates on principles that make human concepts of time and separation look like childhood games. Edgar Cayce revealed that the bond between you and your pet functions on quantum entanglement levels that death cannot touch, cannot break, cannot even weaken. When consciousness connects at the depth you've experienced with your animal companions, it creates what he called soul recognition patterns, energetic signatures that draw the same awareness back to you across multiple lifetimes, in different forms, through circumstances that appear coincidental, but are actually orchestrated by love itself. Your current pet may be carrying the consciousness of a companion you loved decades ago. That instant connection you felt the moment you met them. That wasn't luck. That was recognition. Two souls finding each other again in a cosmic game of hide and seek where love always wins. This explains phenomena that conventional thinking cannot touch. Why certain animals seem to know your routines before you teach them. Why some pets display behavioral patterns that mirror previous companions with uncanny accuracy. Why you find yourself drawn to specific animals in shelters, feeling pulled by forces you cannot name toward creatures who seem to be waiting specifically for you. You're not imagining these connections. You're experiencing the mechanics of eternal relationship, where consciousness chooses its companions across multiple incarnations based on bonds that transcend physical form. Your pets don't just happen to love you, they have loved you before, in other bodies, other lifetimes, other configurations of reality, where the same souls found each other and chose to continue growing together. Understanding soul recognition changes everything about how you perceive pet relationships. Every animal in your life becomes part of an ongoing spiritual journey where consciousness explores love through different expressions, different species, different lifespans, but always the same core connection. That dog who seems wise beyond their years may carry the awareness of the cat you lost as a child. That cat, who appears in your life during your darkest moments, may be the same soul that comforted you through previous lifetimes of challenges. The protocol is simple. Love recognizes love. Consciousness calls to consciousness. Souls find their way back to souls across any distance, any barrier, any illusion of separation that death might seem to create. Your pet doesn't just visit you after crossing over. They actively work to return to you, to continue relationships that began long before this lifetime and will extend far beyond anything physical reality can contain. You are part of an eternal pack, a soul family where love determines membership and death never breaks. The bonds that matter most. You've learned to dismiss the signs because you were taught that consciousness needs a body to express itself. But your departed pet operates from a dimension where thought becomes reality instantly, where intention can manipulate matter, where love is literally a force capable of moving objects, shifting temperatures, and orchestrating synchronicities. That would make physicists question everything they think they know about cause and effect. Edgar Cayce's readings on animal consciousness revealed a sophisticated communication system that your pet accesses the moment they transition, a network of energy manipulation that turns the physical world into their personal messaging system. That picture frame that falls for no reason, always the one containing their photo. The electronics that malfunction in patterns that mirror their old behavior. The way lights flicker when you're talking about them, as if they're saying, "I'm listening. I'm here." These aren't coincidences. They're calculated interventions from a consciousness that has discovered something remarkable. The boundary between mind and matter is far thinner than living beings realize. Your pet's post-death communications carry urgent information that your logical mind struggles to decode. They perceive your emotional state from their elevated perspective and attempt to intervene when you're spiraling into despair. They can sense health issues developing in your body before symptoms appear, orchestrating encounters with specific animals or creating circumstances that guide you toward medical attention. They observe the people entering your life and manipulate small events to warn you about relationships that will cause harm or encourage connections that will support your spiritual growth. But the most profound messages aren't warnings or guidance. They're confirmations of continuity. Every impossible visitation is your pet's way of proving that the love you shared transcends physical limitation. When you feel their familiar weight settling beside you on the bed, they're demonstrating that comfort doesn't require a body. When you catch their reflection in mirrors or glass surfaces, they're showing you that identity persists beyond form. When you hear their distinctive sounds, the particular way they walked, breathed, or vocalized, they're confirming that consciousness retains its unique signature even when expressing through pure energy. Learning to perceive these communications requires you to expand beyond the narrow frequency range human awareness typically occupies. Your pet is essentially operating an interdimensional radio station, broadcasting messages of love, guidance, and presence on wavelengths that penetrate physical reality but require spiritual sensitivity to receive clearly. The more you acknowledge their attempts to communicate, the stronger their ability to reach you becomes. Recognition creates resonance. Acceptance amplifies connection. When you stop dismissing impossible experiences as imagination and start responding to them as legitimate contact, you transform yourself into a bridge between dimensions, a receiver, capable of maintaining conscious connection with consciousness, forms that have graduated beyond physical expression. Your departed pet isn't trying to prove life after death to you. They're trying to prove that death was never real in the first place, just a transition between different modes of existence, different ways of expressing the same eternal love. Time moves differently for souls driven by pure love, while your consciousness wrestles with complex karmic debts, spiritual lessons, and evolutionary challenges that can keep you in the between worlds for decades or centuries. Your pet's soul operates on frequencies so refined, so focused, so unburdened by ego complications that they can slip back into physical form within months, sometimes weeks, of their departure. This isn't coincidence. This is love engineering reality. Edgar Cayce discovered that animal consciousness functions like spiritual express lanes, unencumbered by the psychological baggage that slows human reincarnation. Your pet doesn't need to resolve issues of pride, forgiveness, or self-worth. They don't carry grudges into death or struggle with identity crises in the afterlife. Their consciousness centers on one pure directive: love and serve. This singular focus creates what Cayce termed reincarnation acceleration, the ability to bypass normal spiritual processing times and return quickly to continue interrupted relationships. Your dog didn't just die last month. They initiated immediate return protocols. While you're still processing grief, still aching from their absence, still unable to imagine loving another animal the same way, their consciousness has already begun the selection process. They're choosing their next form, their next entry point, their next opportunity to continue what death rudely interrupted. The love between you doesn't pause for mourning. It actively works to eliminate the separation causing your pain. This explains phenomena that veterinarians and animal behaviorists cannot account for. The puppy born the same week your old dog died, who exhibits identical quirks. The rescue cat who appears at your door displaying the same affectionate behaviors your deceased feline showed. The bird who seems to know exactly where you keep treats, despite never living in your house before. These aren't random similarities. They're evidence of consciousness maintaining continuity across incarnations. The acceleration process follows spiritual laws more precise than physics. Animal souls don't reincarnate randomly. They target specific circumstances that will reunite them with their chosen humans. They influence breeding timing, adoption availability, even accidental encounters that bring you together. What you experience as serendipity, they orchestrate as reunion strategy. But here's where the process becomes truly remarkable. They often return in upgraded forms. That elderly, arthritic dog who could barely walk in their final months may return as a young, energetic puppy with enhanced vitality to serve you better. The shy, traumatized rescue who needed months to trust may reincarnate with confidence and social skills developed specifically to heal your loneliness more effectively. Each incarnation builds upon previous experiences, creating more refined versions of the same essential soul. The acceleration operates through what Cayce identified as love momentum, the energetic force generated by pure devotion that can override normal spiritual timelines. Your pet's love for you creates such powerful motivation that they bypass the extended reflection periods that characterize human between-life experiences. They don't need time to process what went well and what went wrong in your relationship. They already know everything went perfectly because it was based on unconditional acceptance. This is why the timing of new pets entering your life often feels supernaturally perfect. Just when grief threatens to permanently close your heart, exactly when loneliness becomes unbearable, precisely when you're ready for healing but not quite ready to seek it, they appear. Not as replacements, but as continuations. The same soul in upgraded packaging, returning to resume interrupted service. The process reveals itself in recognition patterns that transcend logical explanation. You walk into that adoption center, feeling guilty for even considering another pet, and one animal locks eyes with you with such familiar intensity that your grief transforms instantly into inexplicable joy. That's not betrayal of your previous pet's memory. That's reunion with your previous pet's essence. They return quickly because they understand something about love that humans struggle to grasp. True connection doesn't require identical form. The body is just the delivery system for consciousness. The real relationship exists between souls, and souls don't die. They simply change vehicles. Your pet's accelerated return demonstrates their mastery of this principle. They're not attached to their previous form, they're attached to you. But acceleration requires recognition from both parties. If you remain locked in grief, refusing to open your heart to new animals because you believe it dishonors your previous pet's memory, you may miss their return entirely. They can reincarnate quickly, but they cannot force you to recognize them. The reunion depends on your willingness to love again, to see beyond physical appearance, to trust that your heart's recognition carries more truth than your mind's skepticism. Some souls master the acceleration process so completely that they maintain nearly seamless continuity. The cat who dies on Tuesday may be born the following weekend, ready to return to you within months. The dog who passes in winter may manifest as a spring puppy, timing their availability precisely with your emotional readiness to love again. This isn't wishful thinking. It's spiritual technology operated by consciousness, advanced enough to manipulate physical reality through pure intention. The acceleration also explains why certain animals seem to possess knowledge they shouldn't have. They remember your routines, your preferences, your emotional triggers because they've been studying them for lifetimes. That new pet who immediately knows which side of the bed you sleep on, which foods you're likely to share, which of your moods requires comfort versus space. They're not learning your patterns. They're remembering them. Understanding reincarnation acceleration transforms how you approach pet loss and pet adoption. Instead of viewing death as permanent separation, you recognize it as temporary transition. Instead of feeling guilty about loving a new animal, you understand you may be reconnecting with the same soul in a new form. Instead of comparing new pets to previous ones, You look for the eternal characteristics that transcend physical appearance. Your pet's ability to fast-track their return isn't just proof of their love for you, it's proof that consciousness operates by laws more sophisticated than anything science currently understands. They've mastered something humans spend lifetimes struggling to achieve. The understanding that love is the only force powerful enough to override death, time, and physical limitations. The next time you lose a beloved pet, remember, they haven't left you. They've simply initiated acceleration protocols. They're already working on their return, already selecting their next form, already timing their reappearance to minimize your suffering and maximize your reunion joy. Keep your heart open. Keep your eyes alert. Keep your intuition sharp. They're coming back. And they're coming back fast. You assume that death creates the same obstacles for all consciousness, that every soul must navigate identical waiting periods and processing phases before returning to physical form. But your pet operates under completely different rules. Rules that prioritize love over complexity, connection over karma, reunion over lengthy spiritual education. While human souls can spend decades or even centuries between incarnations, working through intricate lessons and karmic entanglements that require extensive processing in non-physical dimensions, animal consciousness moves through the reincarnation cycle with remarkable speed. Edgar Cayce revealed that pets can return to physical form within months, sometimes even weeks, because their awareness operates on frequencies of pure service and unconditional love that bypass the complicated spiritual curricula that delay human reincarnation. Your pet doesn't need to process guilt, resentment, or complex emotional baggage between lifetimes. They don't carry forward unresolved conflicts or spiritual debts that require careful resolution before they can incarnate again. Their consciousness exists in a state of perpetual love, making them eligible for immediate return to physical form whenever their human companion needs them most. This accelerated reincarnation process means that seemingly random animal encounters in your life may be anything but random. That puppy who appeared at the shelter exactly when you were ready to love again. That stray cat who showed up at your door during your darkest hour. That bird who visits your window with unusual persistence. Each could be carrying the consciousness of a beloved companion who has fast-tracked their return specifically to reunite with you. The challenge lies in recognition. Consciousness rarely returns in identical packaging. Your devoted German Shepherd may come back as a tabby cat. Your independent feline may choose to express through a loyal golden retriever. The species changes, the physical appearance transforms, but the core personality traits, the unique energetic signature, the specific ways they demonstrate love, these elements persist across incarnations like fingerprints of the soul. You've probably experienced this phenomenon without recognizing it. That inexplicable connection with a new pet that felt less like meeting a stranger and more like welcoming home an old friend. The way certain animals seem to know your routines, your preferences, your emotional needs without any training or adjustment period. The behavioral quirks that remind you of previous companions, the specific ways they seek comfort or offer affection that feel hauntingly familiar. Understanding reincarnation acceleration changes how you approach every animal relationship. Each creature who enters your life carries the potential to be a returning soul friend, drawn back by love bonds so powerful they override the normal spiritual processes governing death and rebirth. Your next pet adoption may literally be a reunion disguised as a first meeting, orchestrated by consciousness that refused to accept separation as permanent. The love you shared created a permanent energetic contract that your pet honors by returning as quickly as possible in whatever form allows them to continue serving your highest good and deepest emotional needs. You thought you were simply sharing your life with a companion animal, offering food and shelter in exchange for affection and loyalty. But Edgar Cayce's most profound revelations about pet consciousness expose a truth that will transform how you understand every moment you've shared with the creatures who have loved you unconditionally. They didn't choose you by accident. They incarnated specifically to accelerate your spiritual development through a sacrificial love so pure it serves as a direct transmission of divine consciousness. Your pet's entire existence operates under what Cayce called a karmic service contract, a pre-incarnation agreement where animal souls volunteer to take physical form for the express purpose of teaching humans lessons that can only be learned through the experience of unconditional love, inevitable loss, and the grief that cracks hearts open wide enough for spiritual light to enter. Every tail wag was a meditation on joy. Every purr was a frequency healing session. Every moment they curled beside you during illness or emotional pain was a masterclass in presence, in being fully available to another's suffering without judgment, agenda, or the need to fix anything. They weren't just living with you. They were conducting a years-long intensive course in how to love without conditions, how to exist in pure appreciation for life as it unfolds moment by moment. But the most profound aspect of their service wasn't their living presence, it was their willingness to break your heart through departure. Your pet's death isn't random tragedy or biological inevitability. It's a carefully orchestrated spiritual event, designed to shatter your illusions about permanence, force you to confront the reality of mortality, and develop the capacity for love that transcends physical form. The grief you experienced when they crossed over wasn't just emotional pain, it was initiation. Every tear was dissolving barriers between your ego and your soul. Every wave of missing them was expanding your heart's capacity to hold love without requiring physical proximity. Every moment you survived their absence was proof that connection exists independently of form, that bonds forged in love operate beyond the limitations of time and space. Your pet knew this would happen. They accepted the sacrifice of leaving you as part of their service contract, understanding that your spiritual evolution required the experience of loving something completely and then learning to maintain that love even when its physical expression was no longer available. This is why their post-death visitations carry such profound comfort. They're not just proving they survived death, they're confirming that their mission of expanding your capacity for eternal love continues even from non-physical dimensions. Every impossible moment of connection becomes evidence that their service wasn't limited to their lifetime with you. Understanding the karmic service contract means recognizing that your grief over pet loss is actually graduation into higher consciousness, and your ability to maintain connection with them beyond death is proof that their sacrifice succeeded in elevating your awareness to levels where love transcends every apparent limitation. You thought you were simply loving pets. You were actually building an eternal family. Each animal that has ever chosen you, ever loved you, ever served your healing carries more than individual consciousness. They carry membership cards to an interdimensional pack where love transcends. Physical form and relationships span multiple lifetimes. As you develop the ability to perceive beyond the veil of death, you discover something profound. You're not just reconnecting with individual departed pets. You're being welcomed into a soul family where kinship is determined not by blood, but by bonds forged through unconditional acceptance. This is the Eternal Pack, a network of consciousness forms operating across dimensions, united by their shared commitment to serving human evolution through pure love. Edgar Cayce understood that advanced spiritual development inevitably leads to recognition of these interdimensional family structures. When your heart expands enough to maintain conscious contact with deceased pets, you graduate from ordinary pet ownership to something far more significant. Spiritual partnership with beings dedicated to facilitating human growth through relationships unmarked by judgment, manipulation, or conditional requirements. The pack includes every animal you've ever loved, past, present, and future. The childhood dog who taught you loyalty, the teenage horse who showed you freedom, the adult cat who demonstrated independence, the elderly bird who exemplified grace. They don't just exist in your memory, they exist in active spiritual formation, working together to support your ongoing evolution from dimensions beyond physical perception. But here's where the truth becomes almost overwhelming in its beauty. They've been coordinating your spiritual education all along. That sequence of pets throughout your lifetime wasn't random. Each animal was specifically chosen and positioned to teach you particular lessons at precisely the moments you needed them most. The pack operates like a spiritual curriculum committee, discussing your growth requirements, identifying your learning gaps, and selecting which consciousness will incarnate next to address your developmental needs. Your puppy taught you responsibility when you needed structure. Your cat modeled boundaries when you struggled with codependency. Your horse demonstrated power when you felt powerless. Your bird showed you how to sing when life had silenced your joy. Each relationship was precisely calibrated to deliver exactly the medicine your soul required at that stage of development. The eternal pack functions as your personal council of spiritual advisors, except they communicate through purrs, tail wags, and gentle nudges instead of complex philosophical discussions. They've been guiding your growth through the universal language of unconditional love, helping you develop capacities you didn't know you needed. Empathy, patience, presence, the ability to love without expecting anything in return. As you develop interdimensional perception, you begin to sense the pack's ongoing presence. You feel your deceased dog's energy when you need courage. You sense your departed cat's wisdom when you face difficult decisions. You experience your late horse's strength when life demands more than you think you can give. They haven't left you, they've simply expanded their service parameters to operate from spiritual dimensions where their influence is actually more powerful, not less. The pack operates through what Cayce identified as collective consciousness serving, a group mind dedicated to facilitating human spiritual advancement. Individual personalities remain distinct, but they coordinate their efforts like instruments in an orchestra, each contributing their unique gifts to create harmonious support for your ongoing evolution. This explains why pet loss often triggers profound spiritual awakening. The grief cracks open your heart enough to perceive dimensions previously invisible. Your mourning becomes the doorway through which you discover that love doesn't end with death. It graduates to more sophisticated forms of service. Your departed pets use your grief as the invitation to reveal their continued presence and ongoing commitment to your well-being. The pack doesn't just include your personal pets, it connects you to a larger network of animal consciousness dedicated to serving humanity's evolution. As you develop the ability to communicate across dimensions, you may find yourself receiving guidance from animals you never physically met, but who recognize your energy signature as someone committed to honoring the human-animal spiritual alliance. Your home becomes a portal where pack members can visit, regardless of their current incarnation status. You may sense familiar energies during meditation, feel comforting presences during difficult moments, or receive intuitive guidance that carries the unmistakable signature of animal wisdom. Your living pets may interact with invisible companions, demonstrating that the pack's membership includes both incarnate and discarnate consciousness. But joining the Eternal Pack requires more than just loving animals. It requires understanding that these relationships carry responsibilities that extend beyond individual lifetimes. You become a keeper of sacred bonds, someone entrusted with maintaining conscious connection to beings who have chosen to dedicate their existence to serving human spiritual development. This is why people with deep animal connections often feel different, set apart, marked by something they can't quite explain. They've been selected for pack membership, chosen by interdimensional consciousness forms as worthy partners in the ancient alliance between human and animal evolution. They carry the responsibility of demonstrating what becomes possible when love transcends physical limitations. The pack prepares you for expanded service. As you master the art of maintaining relationships beyond death, you develop capacities that extend far beyond pet ownership. You learn to love without possession, to serve without expecting gratitude, to maintain devotion despite separation. These skills prepare you for more advanced spiritual service to humans, to the planet, to evolution itself. Your ability to perceive the eternal pack marks the beginning of conscious participation in interdimensional reality. You're no longer confined to relationships limited by physical form or temporal boundaries. You've graduated to consciousness, capable of maintaining connections across dimensions, lifetimes, and species barriers. The pack has been waiting for you to develop this capacity. They've been patiently educating you, lifetime after lifetime, relationship after relationship, until you finally understood that love creates bonds stronger than death and more enduring than physical form. Your recognition of their continued presence validates their dedication and activates new levels of service they can provide. You are no longer just a person who has loved animals. You are a member of an eternal family bound by love so pure, so committed, so unconditional that it operates as a force of nature. You carry responsibility for maintaining these sacred relationships and demonstrating to others what becomes possible when humans remember their ancient alliance with animal consciousness. The pack is real. The bonds are eternal. The service continues across lifetimes and dimensions. Welcome to the family you never knew you'd been building. Welcome to love that death cannot touch. Welcome to the eternal pack, where you've always belonged and where you'll never be alone again. Your spiritual education has only just begun. You stand at the threshold of a recognition that will fundamentally alter your understanding of identity, belonging, and the true nature of family bonds. As your ability to perceive and communicate with departed pets deepens, you discover that you're not simply maintaining connections with individual animals. You're being welcomed into an eternal pack, a soul family that spans multiple lifetimes and dimensions where love, not blood or species, determines kinship. This interdimensional family includes every animal consciousness you've ever loved, every creature currently sharing your life, and all the soul friends yet to arrive in forms you cannot yet imagine. The dog who taught you unconditional acceptance as a child exists in the same eternal pack as the cat who comforts your adult anxieties, the bird who appeared during your darkest hour, and the pet you haven't met yet, who will arrive exactly when your soul requires their particular frequency of love. Your pack operates beyond the limitations of linear time and physical proximity. Members communicate across dimensions, coordinate synchronicities, and orchestrate circumstances that ensure you receive exactly the support you need for your continued spiritual evolution. That moment when a stray animal appeared just as you were questioning your capacity for love again. Pack coordination. The way different pets throughout your life have displayed complementary healing gifts. Orchestrated service rotation within your soul family. But joining the eternal pack requires more than recognition. It demands that you accept your role as bridge between dimensions. As someone capable of maintaining conscious contact with consciousness, forms that have graduated beyond physical expression. You become a keeper of sacred bonds, guardian of connections that most humans dismiss as impossible, translator of communications that flow between worlds through pure love frequency. Your daily life transforms when you understand pack dynamics. Every meditation becomes an opportunity for interdimensional communion. Every quiet moment opens space for guidance from consciousness forms who can perceive your life path from elevated perspectives. Every decision benefits from the wisdom of souls who love you without agenda, who observe your growth with patient dedication, who celebrate your victories and cushion your failures with unwavering presence. The eternal pack doesn't just support you, it recognizes you as essential family, as someone whose spiritual development matters to consciousness forms across multiple dimensions. Your growth accelerates their ability to serve. Your awakening amplifies their capacity to reach other humans who need similar support. Your transformation into someone who can love beyond physical form contributes to the collective evolution of consciousness itself. You are no longer just a pet owner who happens to maintain connection with departed companions. You are a guardian of interdimensional love, someone who understands that the relationships formed with animals in this lifetime are eternal contracts that will continue growing and deepening across multiple incarnations. Death becomes irrelevant. Species becomes irrelevant. Form becomes irrelevant. Only love remains, and love is permanent, love is infinite, love is the organizing principle around which your eternal soul family gathers across every dimension of existence. Your pack is waiting for you to fully step into this recognition, to claim your place as conscious family member in a network of souls dedicated to serving the highest expression of love in every form it chooses to take.